Hello, it's time for vlog number 18. Thank you for joining me as always. We've been getting a lot of rain out here in the Midwest, and that inspired this video, which is all about water. Our bodies are 70% water, the planet is 70% water, so it's worth it to talk about the basics of water. Alright, first of all, remember the water cycle. First of all, it evaporates, then it condenses, and then it precipitates. Here's some hand signals for you. Evaporation, condensation, precipitation. And if you want to talk about the water loss from plant leaves, that's transpiration. Alright, so that's your water cycle. And once it precipitates, it flows downhill into rivers and streams, and it ends up in ponds, oceans, lakes, sea level, right? It travels downhill to sea level, and then the whole process starts all over again. All right, we can only drink fresh water. We can't drink ocean water because it's too salty. Perhaps you know the line from the Rime of the Ancient Mariner that says, "Water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink." That's if you're stranded in the ocean. Well, if you have these 100 pennies represent all the water that's on the planet. That's 100 pennies in there. Let's take out 3. These pennies represent the ocean water. So we don't drink the ocean water. That leaves us with 3 pennies. And these 3 pennies, of them, 2 represent all the water that's in ice caps and glaciers that's trapped and not available for use. And that leaves us with 1 penny. That's the amount of water on the planet that we use that's fresh and available for us to drink. So water is important, and taking care of water is important. All right, most of our drinking water has dissolved minerals in it, like calcium and magnesium. And that's what causes the buildup, that crusty buildup that you get on the faucets and water spots on dishes. It's called hard water. Now you can filter your water, and it's called soft water. That gets rid of a lot of the calcium and magnesium ions, but it still has sodium in it, which makes it taste salty. So it's not as good for drinking, but detergents work a lot better in soft water. All right, let's talk about water chemistry. Water is polar, and here's a picture of it. Water's like little magnets. The hydrogen ends are charged positively, and the oxygen is the electron hog. It's bigger, it has more electrons, and so water is like, it's called polar, and water's like little magnets. It sticks to itself. And this creates surface tension, and it also, if you see a dewdrop, it's important with water. Water is also a great dissolver because of its polar property. And so it's really good for our body. It helps our body process, and it's also a good solvent. And lots of things dissolve in water, basically anything except for oil. And fats, oils, and waxes are nonpolar. So here's a layer of oil. This is just cooking oil. And this is nonpolar. Water is polar. And water and oil don't mix just because of their chemistry. Now maybe you've heard of that some vitamins are fat soluble and others are water soluble. And so things dissolve in water or in oil based on their chemistry. What I have here is some blue food coloring. And what do you think it is? Do you think it will dissolve in oil, or do you think it is water soluble? Let's find out. Put a couple drops of food coloring in here, and then I will mix it with a knife, and then I will let it sit for a second, and you will see that food coloring is water soluble. All right, keeping water clean is very important. There's several ways to purify water. First of all, you can filter it. If you're out in nature, they say to use bark or a piece of cloth. Then that gets rid of a lot of the bigger pieces. You can boil water, and also UV radiation helps kill microbes that are dangerous. So boiling water is always good. Filtering using charcoal. If you've had a campfire, you can filter it that way. And then sometimes you can add a chemical, maybe a drop, like a little tablet of iodine or chlorine, which will bind some of the pollutants that are in water. All right, do you know where your water comes from? If you live in the country, it comes from a well. You just dig straight into the water table and pull up the water that way. If you live in the city, you probably get your water from a nearby river or lake. Where I live, most of the water I drink comes from wells dug along the Kansas River. So it's important to think about the water because it all goes to the same source. When you look at pollutants in water, from the outdoors, we get a lot of pollution from fertilizers, pesticides. You put that stuff on the plants and it gets washed down into the stream. Excessive animal poop, farms and dogs, that type of thing, they get a lot of the animal poop that contaminates the water. And if on the inside water is contaminated by medicines and chemicals that get dumped down the drain. So the lesson here is just think about it. Things that end up in the water end up in the drinking water, and then we have to clean it. Now, what about after it does go down the drain? Where does your water go? It goes to some sort of wastewater or sewage treatment plant, and there it is cleaned. It is filtered, and all the processes go through and clean it, and then it just gets returned right back to nature. Now, water is a luxury. Let me show you this picture of worldwide, and the areas in red and pink show that there is a physical scarcity of water in those areas. The areas in green are an economic scarcity of water, and the areas in blue are where water is available. So you have to be appreciative if you have access to clean drinking water. Now, I will always be an advocate of water quality because it's so important. They say we can live for 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. So one of my favorite movies is Waterboy, and in reference to that movie, this video has been all about some high quality H2O. I'm Karen Rogers. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.